Okay. Deputy Murphy. Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. And, excuse me. Thank you for allowing me to attend today. I'm not on this committee, but I wanted to come in because I know linked finance and I know Green Air as well, actually. And just to declare an interest, I'm a lender on the site, or I've tried to be a lender, actually. I opened an account, I think it was about 8 months ago after one of our meetings, Peter, to try and see how the website worked, and I put in €100 into the account and tried to lend it, and I've tried to lend it on a number of occasions in €50 parcels, but no one's taking my money. I might be looking for too high a rate. I'm not sure, 50%.
Yeah, but, I think you're too greedy with your interest rate.
A little bit too greedy, perhaps. But that's the thing that surprised me. Yeah, it's not, I don't have social. But it surprised me because you talked earlier about the potential for growth, and you noted how many lenders there are vis-a-vis borrowers. And every loan, as I see it come through my account, is oversubscribed. Which I think is fascinating, because I would have thought, as you pointed out, that it might have been the other way around. But just one of the things I wanted to ask about it in terms of that particular aspect, and you might have already covered it, the protection there. If a loan's trading for a week, say, and the average rate is looking at about 8.3%, what stops a couple of people coming in at the last moment and, say, offering 7% and having the bulk of the money? Is the 2,000 limit is the only thing, or...?
Yeah, but the 2,000 limit is per bid, because what would happen in a lot of situations, and Maurice mentioned it earlier, in a lot of cases, the people who are lending are friends and family, and we obviously don't want to place any restriction on that. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned a butcher earlier, and who we lent to, and he did his barbecues during the summer. He had a fantastic butchery business. And the father always wanted to support him in the business, but the son was too proud and wouldn't take his cash off him and that type of thing. And this was a perfect vehicle for him. So he actually, exactly as you've described there, in the last hours of the auction, bid 6,000 in 3 lots of 2,000 to actually support his son in the business. So we don't restrict it from that point of view, because every, as Deputy Murphy has described there, he's looking at an auction. It's 100% funded. So somebody was looking for 20,000 and it's 100% funded. Every new bid that comes in the market is actually going to bump out an expensive interest rate. So the top rate of interest at that time might be 12%. So if you want to come into the loan now, you have to bid at least 11.9% and move that bidder out. So what we would find in the last hour of the auction, and certainly even in the last half an hour, on a 20,000 euro loan, 10 or 15,000 might be bid in that last hour as people try to become part of it and bump other people in the market out of it. So in the butcher's case, his father was doing that for the last couple of hours of the auction. He was picking an interest rate, putting 2,000 in, and I think he wanted to lend 6,000 and only ended up lending 3,500 because he got bumped out just before the thing ended. But we'd actively encourage it. Every new bid, once a loan is 100%, is going to make the loan on average cheaper for the borrower.
Thank you. It's the second part of that question was, does the borrower have a choice? So if I'm the borrower and I'm sitting there and I see 50 people have signed up to lend to me, but I recognise maybe 10 of them, and they're about to get pushed out. Can I choose to include them in? No. It's the rate that's the...
We have to make it a fair market. Nobody controls it. Link Finance don't control it, or the borrower doesn't control it. The lenders coming on the market make their own decision. The minimum requirement is to bid €50. So anybody can bid €50 at any interest rate between 5 and 15% to 1 decimal point, so 9.1 or 10.2 or whatever. And that's the important thing about the fairness of the site, is by doing it that way, nobody is unduly influencing the market.
Okay, and just a final question for my chair is, when we've spoken about this in the Dáil before, the line coming back from the government is that, generally speaking, it's waiting to see peer-to-peer financing or crowdfunding being established in other markets before we would do it here. I mean, would it be your view that it is established now, when we look at, say, figures from the UK that you cited earlier on, and which some of the research points to, and if it is established here, or if it's established, in other jurisdictions, so there's kind of a reason to move here, what's the wish list? I mean, looking again at the kind of funding, or the kind of market this is trying to fill, is to move away from bank and big corporate funding, but also not to be wholly dependent on government funding either. Yep. What would be that list of activities that the government could do to help peer-to-peer financing grow in the country?
I think tax relief for the lenders would be extremely important. At the moment, if I want to lend €100 through the site, I, in theory, have had to earn €200 through my wage packet. I paid 50% tax, and that €100 goes into the site. Then if I get 10% interest, that 10% interest will be taxed as if it's income again, which is very unfair. As I mentioned, Sean O'Sullivan from Dragon's Den had put forward the idea that an amount of €10,000, a lender should be able to earn that in interest a year before they pay tax at the marginal rate. And I think that would be really helpful, because then it would be as fair as some of the other things that are out there for people to put their money in. And the other area, and just to go back on Funding Circle in the UK, from our point of view, and everybody connected with the peer-to-peer and crowdfunding business, that is considered to be the absolute perfect way to lend. For the government to give a stamp of approval to the sector, but at the same time get a decent and honest kind of return on the taxpayers' money. It isn't a donation, it isn't philanthropy money that's going into the site that they'll never see back. The whole idea is that it, from a government point of view, gets a stamp of approval, but also makes members of the public realise that it is a safe and trustworthy way of actually lending to small businesses.
Just to clarify that, if I may, sorry, because it's an interesting example of the Funding Circle, and it's a good way of how the government can help, I think. It's not interfering with the market rate at all. The market rate gets set by the private lenders. And when it comes in, it makes the return that they make as well. So it is investing with the expectation of making a return. And the only potential risk, if you were to look at it, would be to look at the default rate, which I think you were saying is under 1%, 2.3, yeah. So without any real risk in effect at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And what kind of money are they putting in the UK?
So in Funding Circle, they lent 20 million through the site, and that was between March and September of 2013.
And I mean, sorry, just to be, I mean, did the government give the money to Funding Circle, or did it give it to someone else to act on their behalf through Funding Circle, or what was the setup?
My understanding is it was put in a segregated account, and it was drawn down as it was required by the market based on the bids that we've spoken. So the 80% bid would go through, and the 20% requirement would be drawn down at that stage. So it was fully within the government's control throughout the whole process. And I believe the average return that they got on that 20 million was in the low 8%. So I think about 8.2% is what they got on that as a return on the money.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.